Hello and welcome to DTV, your source for news and information about the Knox County Democratic Party. I'm Michael Davis, and I'll be your host for today's program with Greg Mackay, Tennessee House of Representatives candidate for District 18, and who will be on the ballot for the upcoming primary election on Thursday, August 2nd. Greg, thanks so much for being here with us today, and welcome to DTV.
Hi, hey Michael, thanks a lot for doing this, taking the time. Appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for making some time to talk to us today. So I'd like to start off by having you just tell us a little bit about District 18. Where is it, and what about the people that live there?
Well, Michael, District 18 is West Knoxville. It's close in west. It starts about North Shore Drive and goes as far along Kingston Pike and Middlebrook as far as the Pellissippi Parkway. It doesn't go too far down by the river. It does go up north and picks up Cumberland Estates and the Mass Green Hills area, Matlock Road, in through there. So it's mostly people just like me. They get up and go to work every day. You know, there are not a lot of poor people. There's not a whole lot of rich people. There's a few affluent areas, Westmoreland and some others. But like I said, it's people that, you know, they have enough money to pay the cable bill at the end of the month, but maybe the college fund is a little bit short.
Right.
So it's folks like that.
Okay. So what are you hearing from some of these people as you're out there on the campaign trail? What issues are they concerned about?
Well, I think the big thing to remember is the 18th district is a great place to live. It's a great place to raise your family, to run a business. It's got everything in the world you can think of. I have been overseas on 7 different missions with the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, monitoring elections.
Okay.
I've been to Russia, I've been to Macedonia, I've been to Ukraine, and believe me, we should thank God every day that we live here in East Tennessee.
Okay.
It's a great place. There are some problems though. There's things people are concerned about. The biggest thing I'm running into is health care. There's a lot of unease about that. We have too many people that can't afford health insurance, and I think we should be embarrassed that that we didn't pass the governor's Insure Tennessee plan. I'm not going to say it's free because nothing's free, but it's already paid for. Every time you get paid, a little bit of your check goes toward the Medicaid fund. And the Medicaid fund that the people, the 18th district, the money that we're paying to that fund is going to people in Ohio, California, and New York.
Exactly.
That have enlarged Medicaid. It was the governor's plan. He's a different party from me, but I still support it. I'll support him when I think it's good for the district, and I won't when I don't. And I mean, you know, it's financially sound if Bill Haslam was for it. So there's really, I can't think of a good excuse why we don't. And that's going to be the number one thing I want to do when I get down there is try to pass some version of expanded Medicaid.
Right.
These are people, Michael, that work Target for 20, 30 hours, McDonald's for 20, 30 hours. They're working. They make too much to get TennCare. But neither one of the places they work, and that seems to be the new model these days, will let them get over 32 hours to where they can get benefits.
Right.
So what do? It's a model that we need to look at for the future and come up with something better.
Right.
And insurance is a big part of it.
Yeah.
You know.
So in your travels and your experience abroad and your previous experience in elections just here in Knox County, you were the former Knox County election administrator,
Yes,
correct?
Sir. Yes, sir.
What in those experiences have you seen are the biggest obstacles to accomplishing these things, whether it be Medicaid expansion or more money or building the middle class, attracting better paying jobs for your constituents?
Yeah, and trying to improve people's lives, basically. When I was at the Election Commission, we had Democrats, Republicans, Independents working together. We did not sit and argue about our differences. We did not call each other names or send tweets insulting other people. We rolled up our sleeves and got the job done. We concentrated on the important things that needed to be done, and and that's what we need to do now. We need to concentrate. And I heard this from Phil Bredesen when he was here in January. He said we need to work on getting a few big things right, which is health care, improving our education, and finding jobs with real benefits. And we need to stop getting distracted by the wedge issues of the week. And that's what we did at the Election Commission. I'm the one that came up with the early voting system that we still use today. When I got there, 20% of the people voted early. All the politicians told me, oh, my people don't like early voting. When I left, 75% of the people were voting early. So we changed the voting patterns of about 80,000 people without spending really much money.
Right.
So also modernized the office. I was the first administrator to ever send an email, if it gives you that kind of an idea of what I inherited. So, and I'd like to help the same thing with state government. My whole life I've had this ability to get things done without getting everybody mad. And that's another thing that I'd like to do when I get to Nashville, is just change the tone of the discourse.
Right.
We can disagree about the minimum wage, we can disagree about economic development, but there's no reason we have to demonize each other.
Right.
We don't have to be enemies. And I think sometimes there's a lack of respect for people that you disagree with politically. And I learned that at the Election Commission. I mean, I met some people down there that were Republicans that were some of the finest people in the world. They're just wrong about politics,
Right.
in my opinion, but they were good people. Okay. And we need to sit down with good people, reach across the aisle, and come up with solutions to these problems that affect people's day-to-day lives.
Okay. So how would you go about building that coalition of legislators who would vote to expand Medicaid? How could they be put together if the Republicans retain a majority in the House, which, although we'd like to see it different, is still the likely scenario that we'll be looking at, hopefully by a lesser margin, but still they may retain that majority. How would you put that coalition together? What would be your role in that?
I think it goes back to having respect for people and listening to people, irregardless of where they come from. They may be from a rural part of the state, they may be from across the state, but I can sit down and listen to them and find out what their real objections are. I'm a real estate broker by trade, and that's what you have to learn how to do. People think you're in sales, you have to talk. No, you have to listen, and you have to find out what the real reason is, what the real motivation is, and then work from there and try to build a coalition.
Okay.
I think that while the Republicans do have a majority, I think there's a split in the Republican Party. There are the Tea Party people, and then there are the I hate to say moderate, because they don't want to call themselves moderate, but
Right.
it's more the business end of things. And
Yeah.
what you have to do is one legislator told me you have to work the split. So you have to find a way, and just find the things that you have in common and try to. I think irregardless of ideology, most people want what's best for their children. They want to get their children the best possible education. I would hope that they would want everybody in Tennessee to have insurance or health care. And we want people to have good jobs with real benefits. So I think there's a lot of room to work with people and get things accomplished.
Okay. Back to health care there in particular, because I know that's one of your primary issues that you're campaigning on. As you've said, it's financially sound. We're at this point just giving our federal tax dollars away to other states who are reaping the benefit by keeping their populations healthier, while we continue to sink farther down the ladder in terms of public health in Tennessee. We have traditionally been pretty high in measures such as diabetes, obesity rates, teen pregnancy, and those aren't getting any better. Expanding Medicaid could benefit everybody. It seems to me, it seems to a lot of people, that if you have a more healthy population, that everything else just kind of grows out of that. Not necessarily economy improving all of that, although it can, but sometimes it can work from that direction. Better health care, healthier population produces a better economy. It seems to me, a lot of people, and maybe to you as well, that this makes sense if people just stop to consider it. But yet, there's been, at some time, whether it was from the legislature, the Republican conservative legislators, or their bases themselves, that were crying out against Medicaid expansion, that it's Obamacare, that it's they're not going to pay for it. How do you message something like this in a leadership role that you're looking to have to these people to get that very, very important message across for our state and for these individuals, that this would be something good for them when it hasn't seemed to have gotten there so much already?
That's an excellent question. I think that you have to learn how to separate the message from the messenger. Just because someone you don't like if they have a good idea, then you should look at it as a good idea and try to do that. And that's the big concern we have. We've got hospitals closing. The rural hospitals are closing, and in fact, the way the expanded Medicare is set up, the federal government draws money out of the Medicaid pool to pay for 90% of the cost. After, I think, next year, or in 2 years, the state is responsible for 10% of that cost. The hospitals have voluntarily agreed to a 6% hospital bed tax in order to make up that 10%. So that's why I say, of course it's not free, nothing's free, but it's paid for. because they're going to make up that 10% because it's in their interest to do so. The hospitals are losing millions of dollars every day because of the system that we now have.
Right.
And what we have now in many cases is a downward spiral for people. Their children get sick, they take them to the emergency room, they get billed, they don't pay the bill, they end up in bankruptcy. Then they're at the 12% car lots, interest car lots, then they're at the payday lenders. Then their life goes into a downward spiral. We want to create an upward spiral, which is where it's all tied in together: education, healthcare, good jobs, and that's what we need to do. I think it's a common good for as many people as possible to have healthcare of some sort. The devil's in the details. How do you work out the details? So I think they were very close to passing it last year. We need to just keep trying. We need to and find out what the real issue is. I find it hard to believe that intelligent people are against it because of a man who was president 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just, there's got to be a better reason than that. And maybe if we can find out what the real reason is, we can address that and get some support.
Yeah. A specific question I wanted to ask you, with all of your experience in elections, do you have any insights into redistricting, the gerrymandering issue that we see a lot of? And this is a nationwide thing, but it is present in Knox County and in East Tennessee. Any insights into having a more fair, objective voting districting in Tennessee?
It is a nationwide problem, and it's been around a while. I mean, gerrymandering was a term for the governor, I think, of Massachusetts back in the 1800s.
Yeah, which they pronounced Gary, but we
but we call it.
We do what we want.
Somebody had drawn a political cartoon because they had a district that looked like a snake, and it was like salamander, gerrymander. So it's been around a long time. The basic problem is this: we let the politicians choose their districts, and that's a mistake. We should consider having maybe a 3-panel judge, retired judges, somebody who's who's got some integrity and got some intelligence to sit down and draw these districts. That's one of the most confusing things that I run into, and in many ways it's my own fault because people don't know what district they're in. There's overlapping districts for county commission, for school board, for the 18th House district, and I say it's partly my own fault because I pushed early voting so much. When I asked people, "Are you in my district?" And I don't know. I said, "Well, where do you vote?" I voted downtown west. Well, I said, "Well, where would you vote if you voted election day?" I don't know. I never vote election day, so they vote early. And
which may be insight into the way people think about voting. Maybe they don't think about those district lines so much, and that's something that we can possibly take into account with how we count up who gets elected from what area. But sadly, we've come to just about the end of the program. We want to be sure that we let voters know how can they get in touch with you, where can they find any information about you and help you out if they want to volunteer for your campaign.
I'd love to have people volunteer. We're knocking on doors, we're making phone calls, we're locating friends and make sure they get out and vote. I have a headquarters across from Shannondale on Middlebrook Pike, next to Nixon's Deli, 7419. I have a website, votegregmackay.com. You just got to spell McKay right.
That's right.
It's Mackay.
Lowercase k.
It doesn't matter on the internet, but yeah, that's correct, Michael. But I would love to, or if you've got any questions, feel free to contact me. I'll be glad to sit down and talk to anybody about any issues.
All right.
At almost any time.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much for being here with us today. Anything else that you'd like to leave our audience and the voters of District 18 with today?
Whether you vote for me or somebody else or write in Donald Duck, you go out and vote. Get active in the campaign. You'll learn a lot. You'll get to meet some people. And democracy doesn't work if you just sit at home and watch television. You've got to take action. So go vote.
Thank you very much. Couldn't say it better. And while you're voting, be sure if you're a Democrat and you want to see Democratic candidates and Democratic values in those offices, pull a Democratic primary. It helps encourage the candidates that we do have and the candidates that we'll have in the future to know that there is support out there. But that's all the time we have for today. Again, I'm Michael Davis. Thank you, Greg Mackay, for being here with us today. And thank you for watching DTV.